I'm Rix11 and I'm back. I've made my decision on policy, you'll see, because there'll be an event that'll fire soon. Uh, Also, there's gonna need to be something, or something needs to be done in the case of Mexico. I'm arguing for full military intervention into the Mexican state. The syndicalists are a threat to our nation, and that threat has to be extinguished. Also the country of Central America. It's less of a threat than Mexico, but still, regardless, has to be dealt with. From there's a buffer zone between the United Provinces and the authoritarian democratic Honduras and Brazil, which Brazil and maybe hopefully La Plata will neutralize Brazil before they become too much of a threat. If not, we may have to intervene there too. But we're arguing for war with Germany. That's the real question here. We're going to be going up against the Kriegsmarine. The Kriegsmarine is something to be feared. It's fairly large, and we're going to have to build multiple fleets. We're going to be fighting in the Pacific, in the European theaters for sure, and Caribbean, and also around Africa when the time comes. Here comes the question of how Japan will react. Japan would be a perfect country. Well, they'd be good for an alliance, or at least to use them against the Germans. They have an extensive fleet and extensive troops. If we could set up a proxy war between them and the Quinn, it would be quite favorable. The Germans would be forced to intervene on the side of the Quinn. It'll tie up troops here, and more importantly, their navy will take losses. And also, we may have to take out Japan. If that happens, the Japanese will be dealt with. Also, we'll assemble the new fleet in Wilmington for now, so I can organize my fleets. USS Ranger will head up this, being it's one of the few carriers we've got that's actually operable or built. We've got several others, but nowhere near the amount we're going to need for this operation, or for an operation of this scale. And more importantly, we need to rebuild our industry. We need pocket battleships. I'm ordering the construction of 6 of them. We'll also need their equivalent semi-modern cruisers. An equal amount of them. Light cruisers, heavy cruisers, and we'll need troop ships, but we'll wait for a better variety of them. And destroyers. Can never have enough destroyers. And we have our naval building program, except for the carriers. The carriers I'll be putting a hold on until there's better designs than the current class we have. 1937 carriers will be slightly better. So I'm going to hit unpause the clock. We have 200,000 men in strategic reserve, and less due to the end of the Civil War. Under the brilliant leadership of General MacArthur, the United States has reigned supreme. The elements that had once threatened this great nation have been vanquished. Those who have contributed to their evils will be punished. The future is bright. Let's hope so. Let's hope all the sacrifice hasn't been in vain. The Canadians had seized Alaska during the Civil War, and were still in control of it. MacArthur had no interest in reclaiming Alaska by force, but hoped that Canada would be willing to hand Alaska back, request the return of Alaska. They gave it back. We'll need Alaska's resources. They don't have much to offer, being it doesn't have much resource-wise. But it's more of a question of reclaiming a lost nation. Okay, now when we destroy the rebellious CSA and AUS, we can think about domestic affairs. Democracy was and is a really important value in American life since the foundation of our country, but with crisis and rebellion's support for democracy has significantly diminished. MacArthur believed that we must decide whether he wants to restore democracy or establish a dictatorship. I've made my decision, and you guys have also made yours, and I agree with your decision for now. MacArthur sounds good for a dictator. Of course, the question of how we implement it is interesting, and I'll show you how in the firing of the next event, of course. And our militiamen, as you can see, they returned home to their families and what's left of their homes to defend it, of course. And of course, they have nothing to do with war with Mexico, rest assured. Or maybe they do. In actuality, I plan an invasion of Mexico soon. Soon enough. MacArthur must get his revenge for what these people have done to our great nation. It's unforgivable. Of course, we're going to wait till we're all good and ready for the attack, but New England rejoins the Union. After a bitter war, the United States has triumphed over its enemies. The state of New England that broke away from the United States has now been added back to the Union. Welcome back, New England. You joined at such a premier time, and your IC and manpower will be welcomed, and we need it more than ever. The 2nd Marine. I need to reorganize these fleets. These are a lot of outdated destroyers and subs. They can still be of use. Let's hope. We'll need to operate for air superiority. The Mexicans have an air force. It's not much, granted, but still a threat. And it's still a threat that has to be crushed like any other threat. And Guantanamo Bay Naval Base. The occupation of Americans' overseas territories by foreign powers during the Civil War is an affront to the United States. The establishment of Cuban authority over Guantanamo Bay Naval Base was a provocation that could not be overlooked. The victorious government now looked to restore those lands seized by their neighbor to the south. Well, fortunately, the Cubans have acted smart, and they returned control of the naval base. Our place in the sun in forging a new USA. It's basically the same thing, but the Canadians control the canal zone, demand the return of it, and the Canadians have agreed. Okay. President MacArthur, who is not even president due to he has to make up his mind whether he wants to throw away the United States Constitution or to keep the deprived power of the Senate and the House of Representatives. First option would be really hard for many Americans. Including the most influential military officers and civilians. Creating a totalitarian state is a tempting option, but it could lead to great divisions in society. The second option leaves the democratic apparatus and allows MacArthur's China to fully control the state. Counterintelligence officials and secret police is warning us about rising discontent in many circles, including the army, so perhaps it's best to appear democratic. MacArthur will be president, but leave the day-to-day ruling to the House and Senate. It leaves the day-to-day ruling. The Canadians have returned the canal zone. I'm surprised. I thought they would be like, no, it's ours. Go away, America. But they didn't. Good old Canada, they hate us still. They don't really hate us. It's just their civilian opinion. It's kind of down, but we'll deal with MacArthur. We'll deal with Canadians soon enough. I can focus on moving these troops to where they're supposed to be. I need war. We need war to trump up the economy. Or at least to rebuild the industry. Our country's been shattered by civil war. Delegations of the unions. Many unions are in support of the U.S. and known for their sorrow cries for restoring the real democracy in the United States of America. We need to take over the unions or allow the unions to operate. Let's allow them to operate for now. Only for now. We may be authoritarian democratic, but I've got a few. We'll allow them to operate. But trust me, they try anything, there's going to be a crackdown. And they won't survive the crackdown. Let's check up on Mexico. Oh, we have a non-aggression pact. Can't have that, can we? I said we weren't gonna abide by the Monroe Doctrine anymore. I kinda meant it. Maybe I'm just mentioning it now. The southern states are reintegrated. Oh, they're being reintegrated. We still have to rebuild all the damaged provinces. We're gonna need to rebuild them too. That's gonna be problematic. Oh yeah. We need to continue to get better tanks. Tanks is gonna be what it comes down to. Whoever has the most tanks are gonna end up winning the day. Or at least talking about intervention, depending on who wins the Spanish Civil War, it looks like it's going to be the Kingdom of Spain, which is problematic. They're going to be an ally of Germany right from the get-go. Carlists would at least be unpredictable. The CNT, they'd be an ally of